Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, and director David Leitch deliver a massive love letter to stunt people with their newest film, The Fall Guy. Older gens will know this is inspired by a TV show of the same name, but what's really important is whether or not this can deliver phenomenal stunts, beautiful action, and a little comedy and romance. A down-and-out stuntman must find the missing star of his ex-girlfriend's blockbuster film. So David Leitch was doing stunts long before he got behind the camera to direct and produce, making him one of the natural choices for tackling a project that's centered around stuntmen. Now, I want to get some of the negatives out of the way first. At 2 hours and 6 minutes, the film is too long. And that's not because it's 126 minutes, but because in stretches of those, there are noticeable dips in the pacing, like almost full stops. And I'm all for quieter moments to give some exposition, but when the storytelling is derailed because of uninteresting monologues or exchanges that are neither funny nor progressing the narrative, that's when they become problematic. And unfortunately, there are more than a couple that harm the flow. Some ridiculous plot inclusions work to showcase fun action choreography, but outside of that, they could be accomplished more efficiently. For example, there's a small scene with Teresa Palmer, and the interaction I thought was exciting, but what ultimately comes from the sequence is minuscule in terms of story development. Now, I know these can be seen as nitpicks, but when scenes make the film feel long, that does impact the enjoyment, at least to a degree. But with that said, there's also a lot of fun to be had with everything that it transpires. Ryan Gosling, he's as charming as ever, mixing sarcasm with vulnerable romance to deliver a performance that's endearing just about from the get-go. And he has to balance his charisma and confidence so that he doesn't go all machismo, instead creating a sensitive character who naturally commands a room without having to shout about how great or cool he is. And Emily Blunt is sweet and hilarious, but also exerts strength and confidence as both a director of the film within the film and within her relationships. She's the boss, but never comes across as bossy. Instead, she's filled with innate and natural authenticity that make people want to follow her. The dynamic between Blunt and Gosling is kind of fairy tale-ish, but not without some drama and conflict. I mean, they have a shared past that creates opportunities for some funny moments, but these also are repeated many times, which then begin to work counter to the flow of the story. I mean, they banter convincingly, showing both tenderness and hurt, creating a genuineness to their conversations. And they also complement each other well in terms of humor and action. And while Blunt doesn't have many scenes to showcase her action skills that she's learned in other films, there is one that is impressively carried out. And it's done in close quarters too, making it all the more exciting. But Gosling gets to play in the action world a lot. That's also where this gets kind of meta. Gosling is playing a stuntman for an actor within their movie, but Gosling, he's also got a stuntman who's taken the beatings that he's supposed to be taking. This is why the whole film is just a love letter to stunt people. All throughout, we're giving glimpses into the filmmaking world, especially with all the rigging and the preparation, the behind-the-scenes people that they undertake to bring us the excitement that we watch on screen. Now, there's a sequence that's sort of shown in one of the trailers that features a neon-clad Gosling fighting in a club. Now, this is captured in slow-mo, but here, the slow-mo is a technique to enhance the action rather than a gimmick employed to hopefully make a humdrum scene look more stylish. Gosling embraces the cheese and the excitement of the sequence, leaning in to create something engaging and silly all at once. Now, there are specific scenes, especially towards the climax of the film, where the stunt performers are specifically highlighted for all they do. In the sequence, it's a little self-indulgent, feeling like the actions came directly from a Universal Studios stunt show combined within the vehicular count of a Mad Max film. But none of this is a bad thing. I mean, it was entertaining and crazy with adrenaline, but it did make me laugh at how all of a sudden we see motorcycles, helicopters, cars, weapon-wielding stunt people. They're all just coming out of the woodwork to converge on this central location. Now, outside of Gosling and Blunt, Hannah Waddingham, Winston Duke, and Aaron Taylor-Johnson, they also star. Now, Hannah Waddingham is brilliant as just this smarmy producer. And I love the running gag that she mainlines Diet Coke, because I don't think there's ever a scene that we don't see her sucking the soda through a straw. Now, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, he has a smaller role, but it's still pivotal as the star of the movie that's being filmed. And he's full of bravado and self-assurance, quickly making him somebody that we don't necessarily want to root for. Then there's Winston Duke. He's the stunt coordinator on the movie, And I loved how he and Gosling constantly trade movie quotes as an ongoing contest to see who can stump the other. And Duke is quick-witted and endearing, and then he can hold his own when it comes to fights. He has some exciting moves that also takes advantage of his wit and timing to create just an entertaining battle all the way around. Now, the story itself, it's not deep, but I think it's sufficiently built out to establish a reason for our characters to be where they are and mixed up in it all. Now, I enjoyed how this had a mystery at its core, taking some inspiration from the TV show that it was inspired by. And that, the cases, they weren't mind-bending or overly complex, but they included just enough intrigue and complications that would allow for some close-quarters combat to take place, and ideally at least one car chase. The movie uses all of these elements, just a whole lot more thanks to the extended runtime. Now, if you are or were a fan of the 80s shows, there are several small Easter eggs that are hidden throughout the movie. Not all of them have to do with the Fall Guy or even something Glenn A. Larson created. But whether it's a logo or a song, the movie finds ways to insert nods here and there without distracting from what's happening within a scene. And I think this is a good precursor to the summer blockbuster movies that we're used to getting. Tons of action, explosions, laughs, romance, and then all-out fun. You're also going to want to stay throughout the credits. For the first portion, we get to see all of the stunt performers that worked on this movie, with Leitch just highlighting where they took over for the actors to do the death-defying feats. And then there is a mid-credit scene that helps to finish out the film while also adding a bit that's going to put a smile on your face. So overall, The Fall Guy honors the men and women who put their lives at risk in films and television to create awe-inspiring action for our enjoyment. As a former stuntman, director Leitch expertly captures the intensity and science of a well-crafted action sequence while not forgetting to showcase the relatable human elements conveyed by Emily Blunt, Gosling, and the rest of the cast. While the mystery isn't exceedingly complex, and there are portions when the storytelling momentum is greatly diminished, the film as a whole delivers thrilling, stylish action, charismatic relationships, endearing wit, and an all-around feel-good story. This is a fun popcorn movie, and one that I believe is going to become more and more enjoyable through each subsequent watch. And if the Academy doesn't finally recognize stunt performers and create an award category for them after the pointed commentary that this film creates, maybe it's time for a changing of the guard over in Oscarland. There's no sex or nudity, a lot of profanity, and a ton of violence. I give The Fall Guy 4 out of 5 couches. So do you have a favorite action movie? Maybe top 5? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.